All right, cool. Your recording is in progress. If you didn't hear that,
stop my banter now.
Nah, I mean you can continue it. All right, hey team, welcome to. Sorry, it's season 1, episode 2. So according to Ricky Bobby, Sir Justin, if you're not first, you're last. But jokes aside, I really struggled when we were thinking about having some guys join in on who should go where. I probably couldn't sing praises and lift this guy up enough. He is the most diverse military guy I think I know. So starting out, he was my sergeant when I came into my first unit. We deployed to OIF-1 together. And today is on humility, or following humility with identity. But I considered having him lead off with humility just because he's dipped his toe in almost every pond of the Navy Marine Corps team when you talk the functions, the warfighting functions, working in the ground ordnance side, the commodity of the 4, and then working in the 3 and MAR 4 as a staff NCO. So went from a slick sleeve private to a staff non-commissioned officer in the Marine Corps, commissioned as a Navy intel officer. So he's worked at the J2 on the joint side, your toes in the 4, the 3, the 2, the 5, regular ground side for the Marine Corps, joint side for the Navy. You still have really good hair, even though your beard's gone, which saddens me a little bit. But my oldest and dearest friend, he's worn the blood stripe for a really long time. Just a really, really good motherfucker. And thanks for giving up your early morning. Up north where you are, we would say Guten Morgen. The lazy Southerners would probably just say Moyen. But regardless, I'm stoked to have you here, my friend. Over to you.
Well, first of all, Josh, thanks. It's truly a pleasure to be here. To be quite frank, if someone told Private McCall, PFC, Lance Corporal McCall, that I'd be talking to a weapons company one day about identity, I'd be a little bit. I would definitely be humbled. That being said, I would definitely not be the right person for teaching humility because I'm an arrogant bastard. I'm joking. No, but all jokes aside, to be quite frank, we're gonna, first of all, this is an informal chat, all right? So this is, I don't want to make this like a college lecture. I do have my slides on a notepad here. I'll scan them, send them to Josh. He can send them over to you. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like a talk is completely worthless if you don't walk away with something that you can at least internalize for yourself. And I feel like a talk is also worthless if a guy stands up like Matt Foley, motivational speaker, and tells you that if you don't get your life together, you're going to be living in a van down by the river. So anyway, yeah, guys, like Josh said, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about like identity today and kind of what do I even think about that? What does that even mean to me? What does it maybe mean to you? I read through the documentation that your CO has provided to you. And actually, one second before we go any further, informal, nobody, don't call me sir. I'm Justin. So among here, we're all buddies, right? So just no one's in uniform. That's all. Yeah, wherever you find yourself in life, you're going to find yourself, whether you know it or not, you're going to wind up asking yourself, who are you, right? And what is it that you're doing there? What are you doing on your deployment right now? What are you doing in the Marines in general? What are you doing with your life? When you're back home, what are you doing as a husband, as a boyfriend, as a girlfriend, so on, as a dad, mom, whatever the case is? It's who you are in that moment is a function of all the experiences and things that have kind of gotten you to where you are. And as Josh was alluding to, my personal story is a little bit winding. It's been around in a lot of different places, and the one thing that's provided me is exposure to a lot of truly amazing people, and that exposure has provided me a chance to kind of really click the reset button pretty hard on my own sense of humility and my own questioning of kind of like, well, who am I, and what is my role in kind of all this? So in my little notepad here, I got 3 big things that I think are important when you're thinking about this kind of concept, and especially kind of related for you guys here. But really, it's kind of just take a step back away from being a sniper, 81s, machine gunner from weapons or HMX, and taking a step back and kind of looking at yourself like in the bigger picture, right? First thing is our experiences shape who we've become. That is who you are in this moment. Now that could be, for me, I grew up as a really small kid with an alcoholic dad, mom working 2 jobs. I got tortured by my sister, as embarrassing as that is, and all of her friends. So I kind of grew up with this massive chip on my shoulder, right? It's like, as this kid, I got picked on. And so come high school time, it was like game on. Start growing up a little bit, and you start kind of, you start trying to find ways to overcompensate for that. I went into wrestling, went into weightlifting, went into football, wound up going into the Marines, listed at 17 and took off to Parris Island. And I came back with a sense of, as I think all of us do, being this barrel-chested vessel of freedom, right? Ready to just go over and conquer the world and be something different. Reality being I was 155 pounds of nothing, right? That was ready to just get smashed by the world. And so up until that point, my identity had been shaped by, I am this kind of weak kid. No, I'm not this weak kid. No, I'm this strong person. Well, I thought I was a strong person. I'm really not the strong person. What is a strong person? So all those things kind of shape you up until that point, in that point in time. And then it comes into your actions, and what are they going to shape who you are in that moment. So you can't really do a whole hell of a lot about where you come from. You can't really do a whole lot about your past. Well, you can't do anything about your past, your decisions, your actions, or whatever the fuck it is that's gotten you to where you are. You can't really change that. You are in this moment right now. So then it comes down to the question, okay, well, what are you doing in this moment? If you're deployed, what are you doing this as part of your job as deployment? If you're at home, what are you doing to spend time with your kids? If you're in the gym, what are you doing to actually get the thing done in the gym versus, dicking off on TikTok? So your actions are going to shape who you are in that moment. Your decisions in that moment are going to shape what your next actions are going to be and who you're going to become. Your humility is going to ground all of that together to make sure that you realize just how hard of a fucking road that might be, because you've previously decided that you're going to take the hard path. You're going to do the hard things to get down that path. And you know that it doesn't get easier. It's just you get stronger, right? Tying all that together, that your experiences kind of brought you to where you are. Your actions, or what you're doing in this moment, and your decisions are driving you off into the future. My personal philosophy around this, sorry if I keep looking at my notes, I just kind of got a picture here, and I am a former Marine, so I need pictures. I think there are 3 things that kind of bind all those things together. The first thing is your philosophy. So that's, who is your character, right? Who are you as kind of a person? Do you have a stoic mentality? Are you a self-serving type person? Are you out for just, shits, giggles, and fun, and everything else is there to support that? Up to you, your philosophy, but your philosophy is going to dictate a whole hell of a lot of how all the history, your actions, and your decisions are going to shape. The second thing is your commitment, right? Once you've kind of decided you're going to commit, whether you're getting an Adams McMap instructor course, or whether you are committing that you're going to go through sniper school, or whether you're committing that I'm going to get out of the Marines and I'm going to go toe the line over at Buds, over at Selection, or something like that, outside the Marine Corps, or just completely drop the military and go do something else. How committed are you going to be to that next step in the path? Because you know it's going to be hard, and you know that all the things they're going to be required. And then finally, discipline. Are you going to have the discipline to stay committed? Are you going to have the discipline to maintain that philosophy? Are you going to have the discipline when all the candy of motivation that we love to chew on in life isn't there anymore? When it sucks, when you're tired, when it's cold, will you be able to do that? Now, look, I think that a lot of those actions, a lot of that who you are, a lot of the identity, that's all kind of to say the external forces, and that's a battle, right, between external and internal things, kind of get you to where you are, what you're doing, and where you're going to go. And that's all fine and good. But in addition to all that, there's probably three big ways that you're looking at. What is your identity for yourself? So who am I? What is my identity for serving? So that is for others. So Justin McCall's identity may be, and I'm going to tell you a funny story in a second. Maybe, like I said, I see myself as this one guy who's doing this thing with the military. I've got this part of my identity that's maybe in academia, because I lecture on the side. I got part of my identity is over in the business world doing these things. part of my identity is being this international man of mystery who's lived abroad for forever. You got all these different things that are kind of like the me. Then you got the serve side. Well, some of that overlaps. So I got the part of me that's serving students. I got the part of me that's serving my unit as the XO SOCUR, and or the serving the command as their senior subject matter expert on SOF, and how do you develop a resilient SOF force with security cooperation. I got the side of me that's serving my kids as their dad. How am I going to show up and be ready to be their fucking dad, right? And a lot of times these things are mutually exclusive. Being a great warfighter, oftentimes, in my experience, maybe you share the same, is not the same as being a great dad. And sometimes the one that, you know, being great at one leaves you sucking pretty hard at the other, right? So self, serve, and then finally society. There's a Greek word, you should check this out, Google it, philotimo. I'll drop it in the chat in a moment, P-H-I-L-I-T, oh no, I can't even spell, philotimo, P-H-I-L-O-T-I-M-O. So philotimo is a Greek word that doesn't have a translation into any other language. Greek language is kind of like that. They've got like 25 million words, and this was a pretty cool one. Philotimo, philo, love of, timo, duty, service, duty. He said duty. So it's a love of service. It's a love of something beyond yourself. So in that society bucket, so you got, you know, yourself, your service to others, and then you got the society. It can all kind of be wrapped up into a concept of, if you have an ability to do something that will make the world a little bit better, the world around you, the people around you, if you can be a part of that, making it better, then you have an obligation. You have a sense of service to do that. It's really ingrained in the Greek culture. Again, check it out on YouTube. There's a great video about it. You see some pretty cool stories from some guys from like World War II who used that against the Nazis. So again, kind of wrapping it all together is to say that, you know, you can't shape a lot of where you're coming from. You can't do anything a lot about that. Either you've made the decision or someone else has made the decision for you to put you through the experiences that you've had. But you are absolutely in control, for the most part, of the things that you're doing in the moment and the decisions that you're making going forward, especially if you're able to frame up, if you're doing it for yourself, if you're doing it in service of, for example, weapons company, or in service of your deployment, in service of this exercise that you're part of, in service of this broader spectrum of really kind of abstract thought of what we're doing in Indo-PACOM, or as I would like to say, just keeping the world in check. So all that to be said, I haven't really talked a whole lot about me, but that's just kind of like that's just kind of putting my framework together of how I think about this. You know, I know what you're thinking. This guy's fucking cool. He walks around thinking about stuff like this all day. He sounds like the life of the party. I would definitely want to talk with him. But the funny part about it is this shit breaks down pretty quick, right? So I was walking with my son this morning, and he was like, "What do you got going on today?" We're walking to the bus stop, and it's worth noting that Josh and I, what's up?
I'm going to interrupt you. How fucking annoyed was your boy that you had another morning life lesson session? Like, talk about identity. I think your son identifies you as the most annoying morning conversationalist in the world. I'm going to mute out and let you explain that one.
Yeah. No, I just keep dropping in the word Fortnite in the middle of saying something to him, so that I'm hip and cool. I'm with it. So I'm walking with my son this morning, and he was like, "What you got going on today?" And I was like, "A fucking meeting after meeting." And I was like, "But I do got one cool call when I get back and take the girls to school. I get to go talk to some Marines who are in Japan." And he was like, "Oh, what are you guys talking about?" And he was like, "Well, are y'all going to talk about blowing things up and war?" And I was like, "We might get there, but it's about identity." I was like, "Do you know what that is?" He's like, "No clue." And I was like, "Identity is who you see yourself as." Like, so like, what do you see me as? And he was like, "A guy who yells a lot." I was like, "You little shit." So I was like, take for example, like Josh and I, we met, as young Marines, and one of the things that kind of bound us together, because you meet a bunch of Marines. I don't like most of the people I served with, as probably many of you feel the same. But Josh and I got along because we both like to slaughter ourselves physically. We like to push ourselves to a point of probably not being entirely safe from a physical perspective into the spiritual realm. And so I was like, son, take me for example. I was like, I like, am I someone who is, listed off these things, or am I like the guy who works out? I was like, yeah, but Dad, you don't really go hardcore when you work out. so I was like, you know what? Fuck you and fuck your attitude. And you edit that out, by the way, before you put that on LinkedIn. And so the thing is, like, how you see yourself and how other people see you can be totally different. The thing is, when I was on the Marine side, and when I left the Marine Corps, I don't want to say with a bad taste in my mouth, but probably a lot like many of you, there's just a lot of the little nonsense with the Marine side of the house that made it really challenging to be a Marine. And I remember when I was leaving, I was like, man, screw this thing. I did my final, like, for example, my final PFT, I'm doing my pull-ups and I'm maxing out my pull-ups, but from going from 19 to 20, like, I rolled out my middle finger on each hand to the guy who's doing the score. And I was just kind of like, basically, at this place, I'm out. And then I went over to the Navy side, and I was like, well, I'm going to be a god. I'm going to be Superman in here. And this is kind of getting back to your humility question or topic from last week. So I go over to the Navy side. I'm like, a Marine staff sergeant is basically like a Navy admiral, right? You're much more hardcore. You're obviously you're just more locked on in general life. And then you realize being an officer is like nothing at all. Like being enlisted, it's like an almost zero transferable skill set to be able to navigate the politics of a wardroom, to be able to deal with it as an 01 and 03, treating you like an absolute boot. And then to go from there over to the soft world, which is actually something that's kind of interesting. So I spent the last like 10 years in special operations, supporting from Special Operations Command Europe, Special Operations Command Africa, SOCOM headquarters, JSOC, and some SMUs from within and forward deployed task units. And the thing about that is the guys who you meet there, a lot of times the world looks at them and say, oh, these are the toughest people in the world, right? They've gone through the toughest training. They're tough, and I want to identify myself as being a tough guy. And so a lot of times you see this all the time, like someone who says, I'm going to be a tough guy, I'm going to identify as being this tough person, and because that makes me look like a leader. And what they don't realize is what actually tough means, because the vast majority of people in the world have never done something actually tough. They've never actually put themselves or put in either through something tough or into a moment where they have to be tough to get through it, right? And therefore they have no concept of what they're doing. They're just kind of looking and watching a movie and modeling after that. So they think that these guys are tough in the sense that they're just like, I'm tough. And the reality is most SEALs, most SF guys, most MARSOC guys, et cetera, some of the funniest motherfuckers you've ever met. Now, these are the guys who have an infinite number of jokes up the sleeve, and they have an infinite ability to drop those jokes at exactly the right time when things suck the absolute worst. The toughness isn't about being an asshole. It's about being able to get through moments and get other people through those moments in ways that make the most sense. And the thing that you see a lot in SOF are people who come in from outside in and immediately develop what I call imposter syndrome. And this is especially true of support guys. Looking at you, Intel Sniper Lieutenant in the back, and I'm looking at myself, right? Intel guy supporting to special operations. So when I got there, you see everybody walking around with like a Sunto watch, or walking around with, because Sunto was the new cool version of, was the one that G-Shock went from G-Shock to Sunto to now Garmin. And then you got the Merrell shoes, you've got the Patagucci, everything. You've got Arc'teryx. Everybody wants to look like they're part of the SOF community. Let the hair grow a little bit more, start standing a little bit different, let a few little regulations go. You want to be identified as being that kind of person. So what does Justin McCall start wearing to work for his watch? This is a Casio calculator watch. The funny thing about this is, so when I deployed the first time was I took this with me. I bought it for $14 at the PX, and the reason I bought it was not just because it's cool, obviously, but I got it because I needed to remind myself to don't be that guy, to know my role and don't be that guy. Because when I first got over into the special operations side of the house, I was talking to a senior chief, SEAL, and I was like, so tell me, I was like, from an intel perspective, like, what's the biggest thing that you need? What's the biggest thing that you need us to not be? What do you need me to be? What do you need me to not be? And he's like, the biggest thing that we ever need is just to be really, really, really fucking good at your job. Be amazing at your job. Like, full stop. Know your job inside out better than everyone else. And know that that's you, that's your role. And the second thing is, don't try to be the person who you're not. And as soon as you start getting that, you look around, you start seeing the people who are trying to be the thing they're not. You start seeing the people who are not paying attention at really, really doing really well at their job, and the people who are trying to just pretend to be the thing that they never toed the line and tried to do. They're imposturing the same way that the person from outside in is trying to posture looking like a tough guy, right? So calculator watch goes on the wrist every day to work. As a reminder, I'm an intel guy. I'm here to do intel things. I am a nerd. That is who I am. I'm a nerd who runs ultra marathons. I'm a nerd who will go hang out with the boys. I'm a nerd who can talk gutter shit face to face with a SEAL or a special missions unit operator. Sure, but at the end of the day, I'm a nerd. They're the monkey. Monkeys can't go smash the right things without nerds telling them where to go smash. Right. So know your job. The calculator watch, funny story about that. I'm sitting there in a team room and we're giving a brief, and someone spots it. And they're like, whoa, stop. Dude, show me that watch. It turns out this was the ops sergeant major who was the ops sergeant major who had been the team lead for one of the teams that we were supporting in Northern Africa. And suddenly the entire room gets into a conversation about the Casio calculator watch. And they were like, why are you wearing the Casio calculator watch? It's like, well, here's why. And they were like, that is fucking amazing. This is awesome. Next thing you know, the sergeant major goes outside to his phone, and I walk outside to go get something, and we were shooting shit. He's like, dude, I just sent my mom a message. She's gonna try to find my Pac-Man watch to send to me. so the thing is, like, all this like bravado, all this machismo kind of thing kind of breaks down, but the relationship that we had of being really good is because knowing my role, knowing the thing that I need to do. So if you are a sniper, being really good at being the sniper, and not trying, if you're a platoon sergeant, being really good at being the platoon sergeant. If you're a platoon leader, being really good at listening to your fucking platoon sergeant and your CO. If you're a boot, being really good at listening to your senior lance corporal and knowing your place in the world, right? So that's something that's really, really been important to me, I think, from a kind of knowing your place, knowing who you are. And so that being said, I got a whole list of things over here that I could talk through, but I want to just pause for a second because I've been on a pretty hefty monologue there, and just ask your thoughts around your experiences that kind of got you to where you are, and your actions and decisions that are kind of driving you forward. How do you, as an individual and as a team serving something bigger, it doesn't have to be about the Marine Corps, it doesn't have to be about your deployment, it doesn't have to be a weapons company, but how do you see yourself? How do you see you as a part of this thing around you? How do you see your role, and how can you humble yourself in that role to kind of better click with the overall thing? Mind you, I'm kind of going on a tad of sleep deprivation over on my side, so apologies for the rambling.
You're good. No, I mean, I'd say looks like Ann Arbor is stepping up to the plate. So you guys got it first. Over to y'all to answer the question and give your feedback on that.
All right. Hey, gentlemen, I'm Kobe Melendez with Anti-Armor. To answer your question, for personal experience, and Devin is one of the junior Marines in Anti-Armor, and was quickly humbled by my experiences of training and learning kind of like what my place was here and then kind of getting to know how things work with the senior lance corporals at the time, and then it became me turning into a leadership role, and I learned from pretty much platoon staff, commanders, down mainly from our senior lance corporals at the time, now my fellow NCOs, and I think one of those things is identifying like, hey, where your place is and where you need to get to. And I think that's kind of what turns me into like the type of leader that I strive to be and I'm hoping to become. I may be the missile slinging badass that I am right now, but I definitely came from a place of learning and understanding. So understanding my identity back then to where I'm coming to and what I want to strive to be is really important. That's your last point here.
Rock on. I love that missile slinging badass. MSBA. Put that on a Velcro thing.
Justin, I'm gonna inject real quick because I think I was gonna cold call a random person. So I think where you're going is important. They had Fourth Reg out here had tragically a couple people that were killed in a car wreck. And I was sitting with a CO today. We had it wasn't anything duty related, but there were some Marines that died, and they had a memorial service for him. We had a memorial service for him. I didn't go to it, but when I was having lunch with the CO, I turned to him and I said, it's really ironic that today they're having a memorial service. I'm going to be talking with my oldest Marine Corps friend who, I mean, mentors aren't something that someone can assign to you. A mentor and counsel and someone that speaks into your life, I really believe is something that you hand select as a grown man or woman. So the mentor program, I think, is a little bit fucked in that, hey, who is your mentor? Well, it's whoever I choose it as a man should be my mentor. I think the relationship that Justin and I have is really special because the identity piece of who I was as a young guy, meritorious combat promotion to Lance Corporal was because at the time Sergeant McCall said this guy needs to be it. And then a year later, meritorious promotion to Corporal for Josh Morano was at the helm of, Justin McCall going, this guy needs to keep pushing. So I think the identity that we have is important, but having the humility piece to tether it together intentionally of others are always there, sticking their neck out and sacrificing for whatever success we have. It's never on our own. And all these things tie together. And so today I was just sitting here going like, hey, like if any one of us, choked on the glorious whiskey that I'm sipping right now, and like I drowned in my own literal whiskey and I couldn't be resuscitated. That's not whiskey at all. But hey, like what if something happened and we're going like that in a flash? Because nothing's guaranteed. Not even the end of this conversation. What if that happened? But the rest of the people are left standing and I'm gone. Like, what would people say about me? And I think it's like you were saying, like, hey, who I think I am, and then who your son said you are, like, hey, Dad, you sort of ramble about crazy stuff, right? And you're like, fuck you, man. But
he didn't say that. You said that.
Well, there you go. Now you have my perspective. But I think it's important to go take a step back and hear what others will give you feedback on, get some honest counsel and feedback, and just ask yourself a question. If there was one thing that I would want to be remembered by, to take that action and take that decision and step forward, if I could leave one mark and I got one descriptive, what would that be? And am I striving for that? I'm really curious what that is. And like all the bullshit aside, all of the work cliches aside, just as a human being, and I have my own answer to it, but I know my own answer, so I'm not going to share it right now. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But for you guys and gals, I'm going to give you about 15 seconds to think about that. I'll give you like a pregnant, awkward pause. And then I'm going to cold call someone. If there was one thing that if you drop dead right now, you would want people to say about you, what is that identity? Like, what is the thing that's closest to who you want to be? And I think that's tethering all the stuff that we've heard so far from you. That's important to answer, because hopefully that would drive our actions and our decisions. So I'll give you a weird silence, and then I'm going to cold call someone, and you don't know who the hell that's going to be. And that's the fun part of facilitating this. So actually, Justin, I'm going to let you call on someone from one of the platoons. So whether it be 81 snipers, heavy guns, anti-armor, or you can call out the head shed here with the 4 horsemen. Doesn't matter. I'll let you cold call someone, give them 15 seconds to pregnant pause and hope that they don't get picked on. And then they have to answer. So I'm going to mute out and let you guys take it.
All right, I'm a huge fan of initiative and volunteering. Anybody got the balls to just stand up? Yep, what's up?
I need Staff Sergeant Olson, the sniper platoon sergeant. So even for this, I can kind of answer both your question and Captain Morano's question. Like the whole like identity, who you see yourself as. So like even for me, I'm in like I feel like you're kind of struggling. Like I'm in a weird spot. Like I did 12 years as a machine gunner, slinging lead, walls of lead everywhere else, and now I am the Scout Sniper platoon sergeant. So I traded 1,000 rounds for one. And I kind of like identified my role here as like I have nothing to do with their job besides making sure they have what they need, they're doing the right things, and like it's their job to do their job. They focus on theirs, and I let them focus on theirs. Like they run the training plans and everything else. Like I'm a facilitator for everything that they need, so I've had to take a huge step back from how I normally would do things with machine guns and everything else, and let these guys do their job and make sure that they know their job. And that's like on them to do that as well. Like it's really not trying to be them, not trying to do what they do anything else. It's just make sure they have everything that they need. Focus on like, what can I do best that makes these guys do what they do best?
Yeah.
And like, that's like 100% what I focus on. And so it's kind of like the similar thing. Like I understand, like I had to like change my identity like over the time of different roles and billets I've been in. I've run with one thing for so long and then switched to a whole kind of new thing. Had to learn, so I like had to completely learn their stuff, do everything else, like figure out how they work, how they do things, how they operate. To be like, okay, here's where I can fit in best. Here's where I can do best for you, and then here's how I can help you guys do this better, do that better, or like keep you guys out of the limelight and everything else. Make sure they have somewhat of a haircut at times.
Haircuts are overrated. That's why I joined the Navy. So I completely empathize with what you just said for a major reason. I think that as we kind of all get older, as we all kind of grow up in whatever organization you're in, you, especially in the military, you have a natural evolution away from being able to do the thing that you actually like to do, whether that's, you know, I know people who are just really they're cryptos and they just really love doing cryptography type stuff, or you guys sniping, you guys slinging down walls of lead, whatever the case is, the thing that you like to do, whether it's as a grunt, as an intel person, as a soft operator, you are going to naturally find yourself away from that, and your role is going to become more and more about taking care of the people who are doing that. And as you start kind of gravitating toward that leadership and more administrivia type role, we call it administrivia, but it's the taking care of the people. It becomes less and less about you and more about them. And as you get those layers between you, it becomes to where it's almost, you're so abstracted away from the thing, from whether it's sniper platoon or whether it's from anti-armor or whether it's from infantry as a whole, that because you become more and more a part of this bigger picture, that you're going to naturally have to evolve into that. And that sense of self is going to become more and more a sense of serve, more and more a sense of society as you evolve beyond that, right? And the thing is, I was talking with Josh about, originally I was going to have a buddy of mine come up, just kidding, because of op tempo and his job. We worked together when he was at Naval Special Warfare Unit 2. He was the OPSO for Unit 2, and I was working with the 2X and 3X for Unit 2 in SOC here. I was the CT lead for SOC here and SOC forward in Southern Europe. And the thing is, at the time there, when we worked together, he's the ops guy, I'm the intel guy. And oftentimes, if you're talking about, like, for example, an exercise, or if you're talking about, you know, doing non-standard maritime type operations, you know, dropping MCADs here, doing whatever it is there, He's the guy, right? It's hey, what you're a lead. You tell me where we need to go. What do we need to do? We come inland, and you start realizing, well, this is not a conflict zone. This is an asymmetric environment where it's definitely more on the special activities end of the spectrum. He's no longer in the lead, right? And so now here's what we need to do. Here's how we need to do it. Here are the people that we need to bring in, because we're now conducting something that's less kinetic or has the less ability to be kinetic. And both sides have to be able to work together, right? And here's why I'm telling the story, because then flash forward like 2 years later, I'm back out over in the reserve side. He's back over on the reserve side, or he's now over on the reserve side. He wasn't reserve before. And we're both at SOC gear. I'm the XO of the SOC gear unit. He comes over and joins the unit. This dude's a SEAL. He should probably be the XO of the unit. He never once puts his hand in there and says, I should be the XO of the unit. He never once puts his hand in there and says, I have a natural right to be in this position. Every single time he steps up, it's what can I do? Hey, how can I help? Hey, you said you got the training plan. Let's link up with SEAL Team 17 and 18, because they already got this training pipeline in place, and we can run people through these shoots. We can run people through these scenarios. We can tie up with the Trident exercises, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How can I help? How can I be there to support you? And by all means, he should have been in my seat, but I'm in the seat, right? And now, again, today we find ourselves in a situation where he's at Warcom in Coronado, and we are looking how we can provide, reserve buy support to do some of the things that they're doing at a broader NSW. So the point is, as you kind of go around in these roles, like Staff Sergeant was saying, you may start out with, I was the intel guy. I know how to build out target. I know how to find people and then go stab them in the back. He's an operator. He knows how to go find the people we find and shoot them in the face. We all work together and we're all happy. But as you kind of evolve, it becomes less and less about being really good at that specific thing and being better and better about working together and getting all the people to be able to work together, knowing their role, knowing their identity, doing the cool thing and hacking the mesh. Josh, do you want to call on, or what do you want to add on that?
No, I think that's solid. I think I'm going to go around the horn and get a thumbs up and thumbs down response, you included, Justin. So we had initially slated this for an hour. We're about 5 minutes out from a 45-minute hack, and I'm happy to keep it in an hour. I told the guys for our time we were going to do from 15:45 to 16:30. Around the horn, be honest, please, because honesty is the best policy, and I'm happy to drop the hammer in 5 minutes and log it off. If you guys would like to ask questions, I will say that Justin probably has the most breadth of knowledge on some things that you guys could pick his brain on, specifically with the identity of the Marine Corps is where I'm thinking, where we're stepping more into a joint integration, whether it be Indo-PACOM, whether it be the Ruskies, who are all spies, the things of that nature. Like he could answer at just an unclassified level his perspective from what he's done for over a decade, which is a wealth of knowledge. So you guys have a really cool opportunity, and I'm not offended if you say, hey, in 5 minutes we'd like to mic drop and just go drink for the weekend and libo call. We're done with it. So Tim, over to your room. Thumbs up or down? Would you guys like to do 5 minutes, or are you good to push past 5 minutes and do a few more minutes with Justin? You're good to push for a few more minutes?
Yep.
Okay. 81s, are you guys good to push for another like 15 minutes or so total to let you guys get some back and forth? Awesome. Anti-armor and heavy guns, are you guys good to push? Okay. Heinz, and I'm looking at you guys. You don't have to be a conformist. Okay, cool. It sounds like they love
the anti-armor room is like, they're going to turn the video off and they're passing around shots already.
They totally. Hey, so first off, when we did the first call with my buddy Don Reynolds, it was right before I went to command and staff, and I was so angry that I couldn't have a beer because officially that's frowned upon in this establishment. So I just had coffee. But this is actual whiskey, and this is a much better PME because your hair looks better. Don has a high and tight. You don't. And I have whiskey. So like, I love Don, but you're crushing it, man. This is great.
Hey, can we do it? Would you mind if either when you post this to wherever you wind up posting this, to either stop the recording here or like edit this the next part out, or can we stop recording for the next part of the conversation?
I will pause recording, and then I will edit it, and then we can resume at the end if you'd like. So pausing recording now. playing now? German, over to you guys, buddy.
We don't have anything, sir. I appreciate Lieutenant Commander McCall and appreciate the time he spent with us.
Awesome. Hey, Heinz, and over to your group. You guys have any questions, comments, thoughts, feedback?
Yes. Hey, what's going on, Justin? Section 3 enters in senior line of weapons. I had a question in regards to imposter syndrome. Talking about that, like from your experience with leadership, like how do you deal with guys that have that mentality of like they think they're fucking the cock of the walk, like think they're hard or salty or whatever, and like they rate all this experience. Like how do you manage that and like kind of not necessarily like check them, but like from like actual like developmental standpoint, like work with them?
That is a really good question. Okay, so when I meet new folks who come over into Softland who are especially the support guys, right? I mean, if you're an operator, that's let operators deal with it. That's their thing. Although I'll come back and talk on that one really briefly. But first of all, I have a very candid conversation with people. Know your role, know who you are, and know who you're not. Do not try to be the one that you're not. And it's not to say that you're not as good. It's not to say you're not as important. It's just to say that everyone has your role. And if you aren't doing your role, then the whole thing doesn't work, right? And then the second thing I'll do a lot of times with people, I will put them in a situation where they are going to have to come face to face with the lion's den in the J3 and just realize how much they are not a J3 body. So what I mean by that is let's just say, for example, I have an intel guy who is suddenly went on REI, dropped a couple grand to look like he is a full-blown operator. I'll just send him out to an ODA to go give a brief, or I'll send him out on a JSET to go spend some time doing some things forward, and let him realize just how little anybody fucking cares about him or about what he's wearing or about until he's showing up and doing his thing. Because I'll tell you, and I'm sure you guys are the same way. Let's just take like your ammo tech, for example. You could give a shit less how much your ammo tech really cares, or really knows about the weapon you're shooting, or knows about infantry tactics, if he's not getting the ammo to you on time and the ammo that you need, right? He needs to know his job. He needs to know his role. And it's not to say that he's unimportant. It's not to say that he doesn't have a job to do. It's just to say that his job needs to be done. If it's not being done, then that person needs to be checked. And I think you can do that very respectfully. I don't think you have to to be an asshole. And you definitely don't want to be a talking down to someone kind of guy. But there are gentle ways to kind of give them exposure to reality. I was chatting with Josh yesterday about this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I don't know if you guys know the Dunning-Kruger effect, but basically it says that when you start out with something, you know nothing. And then when you start to learn something, you start to feel like you know everything. Your confidence level goes through the roof. And as you start to know a little bit more, you start to saying, holy shit, there's a whole lot more of this that I didn't know. And then your confidence just plummets and you start kind of gradually getting better and better and better. I'd say that the earlier you can expose someone to that summit, past the summit, to realize how much they don't know, how much their confidence is out of whack, is the better. Because that gives you the chance to start that grinding path toward being a part of the team and how their role is a part of that. Does that answer your question? Sweet mustache, by the way, if I see it.
Thanks, appreciate it. But yeah, that does answer the question. Thank you. It's very insightful. Cool.
All right, heavy guns, anti-armor, and of course, Justin, you'll appreciate this. Dunn is my armory custodian. So you'll see HMG and AA plus Dunn. So like he gets his own shout out. Good job, Dunn. Appreciate you. Over to y'all's group. You guys got anything?
All right. Corporal Smith and Armor. One of the questions that's been floating around the room was basically your experience going cross deck from Marine Corps to Navy, how that sort of changed your leadership mindset and basically changed just going to a new branch.
Oh, great question. Great question. All right. To be honest with you, in many, many ways, I became a better Marine after I left the Marine Corps. And you're probably asking yourself, like, what do you mean by that? What I said earlier about, I think I loved being a Marine. At times, I found it very challenging to be a part of the Marine Corps. What I mean is all the things that the Marine that you learn as a Marine about, setting massively high standards for yourself, achieving those, working together, not being about yourself, eating last, taking care of the mission first, taking care of your people. All those things are amazing. They can sometimes get just absolutely squandered by the absurdity of the regulations that the Marine Corps puts in place as an institution. They all have the reason and rhyme, right? But for certain personalities, it can just be a little bit suffocating at times. When I came over to the Navy side, I think a lot of that was taken away. You don't have to get your hair cut every 3 hours. You don't have to necessarily, you don't have to run as far fast. You don't have to lift as heavy. You don't have to do a lot of things on the Navy side. But because of that, I started saying, well, but that's me. This is who I am. This is what I want to be. And so it became less of doing these things because I had to for the PFT or for the combat fitness test. And now I do these things because I want to, because it's who I am, not because someone's telling me it's got to be who I am, right? I think a lot of us as Marines, you get this like natural rebellious kind of style to you, where it's kind of what draws you to the Marine Corps side, right? It's a little, because Marine Corps can be a little bit rogue. It's the closest thing I've ever found in the world is working with French Foreign Legion guys. You're just a random group of misfits who kind of come together and are bound by this common sense of I'm better than you in the world. Rangers are like that too. So that's the one thing is I think a lot of times helping find yourself. But the other thing is on the Navy side is Navy and officer. So two things. First of all, I was incredibly surprised on the Navy side by the level of professionalism and maybe not on, for example, what their waistline is, but really, really, really professional on their job. So I've known guys who are like an electrician's mate. I've known a guy who was a crypto. I knew a guy who was a crypto I knew a woman who was a crypto who wound up learning Arabic and then wound up learning several dialects of Arabic and then wound up learning Farsi on her own, right? This is the side of stuff that you just don't ever see, right? So there's a lot of high level professionalism. And so the leadership there becomes less about go, 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 is less about, chest pounding and kind of like that Marine Corps style leadership, and a much more nuanced style of leadership, and that requires a lot more, especially depending on which branch you're kind of leading inside, an ability to lead less from force and more from reason. And I also see that more and more now, I think even with newer generations, right? I mean, this isn't, when I came in, Gen X type people respond differently than millennials do, and probably than Gen Z will. And that's, you can't expect that they're just going to mold to the pattern. Part of leadership is resiliency is as an organization is molding yourself to them. The third thing is, we often talk about, like, as an officer, it's all about politics, but no one ever really says, well, what does that actually mean? What I found was really disturbing when I first came in was if someone was doing a bad job, they just didn't do their job. Maybe it was like my logistics officer, or maybe it was whatever. That the CO just wouldn't smash his ass right in front of everybody. They just wouldn't call him out and be like, Paul, you're not doing your job. You were supposed to do this, and you just completely dropped the fucking ball. And now we have these 3 other people who can't do this, or this other person's having to do your job. Get your shit together or get out of here. And more in the wardroom side, it's a lot more delicate. It's a lot more building up constant alliances. It's constantly trying to get people to kind of see your perspective, work together, because everyone has an agenda. Everybody, and the agenda is based on whatever their mission is that they're trying to achieve. Everybody has, it's just a little bit more delicate. I'm kind of circling around the answer, but I would say that those 3 things. I would say coming over made me a little bit more of a Marine, because it allowed me to focus on the things that were actually being a Marine versus actually trying to be a part of the Marine Corps. Second thing was, learning how to lead through reason versus through force. And the third thing is learning how to navigate other people's agendas and not hurting feelings in order to get everyone to continuously go along.
Cool. Hey, Tim, Harold, Corey, over to you guys. Do you guys have any questions, comments, save rounds for the group? And then I think we'll close it out after you.
All right. Yeah, it's kind of like one last comment, like kind of, I feel like kind of thing, like back to the Greek word of like philotimo, is that like a lot of people forget, especially when you get to a leadership position, keep going up, that like it's your responsibility to serve. Like it's like you're proud of serving, like your obligation to serve is like no matter what you do in life or everything else, like your goal is to serve. Like you want to create like your own business, your own job, like you're providing a service to somebody. Like you want people to have your stuff, like you're trying to serve the community. Like in the Marine Corps, like as you get into a spot like mine, it's my job is to serve these guys, like give them their needs, everything else. Like, and sometimes it goes up and down. Like I have to like serve my hires, like, hey, this is what's coming down, like make sure it's happening. It's like, okay, I have to do that. Like your overall ability is to like how well can you serve? Like knowing your job, you're doing your service to something, you're doing a service for somebody. That's like the overall end goal. Like regardless of where you're gonna go, it's like you have to serve in a capacity. Just how well are you gonna serve in that capacity? Like put your all into it, put the commitment into it, like do your best to serve whoever you're trying to work for, do things for, or provide something for somebody. Like, that's my kind of like take on everything is do your best to serve at all aspects.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Hey, I'm gonna read what we've scoped out, what I scoped out for the team in our expectations of the blood stripe. And I would just ask you to hear this maybe through the filter of what you've heard Justin share with the team. And then hopefully this helped illuminate a little bit more of who I am and where this came from. Because I'll be honest, the identity of who I am as a leader has come a lot from the shaping and the inspiration and the counsel of the guy that we've been able to talk to for the past hour-ish. So, and that's honest, that's genuine. So a lot of the things that I embrace and take on as sort of my mantra or my philosophy have come through him. And the other three you all will hear over the span of this short series. It's an honor, brother. And I think knowing that, hey, this is where our company commander stands because of someone like this guy who's done this for 11 billion years and been dipping his toe in every fucking pond, ridiculous with hordes of success, but had a strong enough identity to stiff arm the bullshit that sounded like the fun thing to sink his teeth into, but he knew like, hey, for the family, probably not it. And we've had a lot of those talks, which I won't even share because that's a Josh and a Justin talk, but I know they're real. And I'll say to the team, I really encourage you. It doesn't have to be anyone in the team. It doesn't have to be anyone in uniform. Find like really good mentors and really good counsel that are aligned to the vision of who you are trying to become, the identity that they actually know who you are, and they'll call you on your bullshit, which we do to each other all the time. And you can pick up the phone and they'll be there any time of day or night. That's invaluable. And that doesn't have to be a Marine. That could be someone completely random to me. But if it keeps you true to who you're trying to become, I think it's worth having at least one of those people in your life. And they should probably be on fucking speed dial number one for you. And I'm thankful that you're one of those people for me. So identity, as we've scoped it, is all must understand who they are and why they are valued, both as individuals and as team members. Leaders must clearly define the purpose and desired end state. The methods in which these are met must be decentralized to leverage the team's diverse creativity and strength. And those sorts of ideas and that mantra for me is very intentional to say like, hey, who are you as a person? Josh Morano as a person. I better be a really good husband to Laura, and I better be a really good father to Aria, Alessia, and our soon-to-be child, who I won't tell you her name, even though we know what it's going to be, because fuck y'all, you can wait until she's born. but that identity is paramount, honestly, to being the company commander of all of you. And I say that with love, but I say that intentionally because I'm a husband and a father first before I'm anything else. And I think those things can be co-equal and they don't have to be mutually exclusive. But if I'm going to pick and choose one, I'm picking and choosing my wife and my children over anything. And it's important to draw those boundaries as a human and as a man or as a woman. But as a team, like, what am I doing to give you a clearly defined vision, tell you where I want us to go, and then get the fuck out of your way? And like what Tim and Justin and a lot in the team have said, to just be a really good person at my job to help lift you up and to honor you and the skills that you have and not try to snipe your skills out. So hopefully that through this talk today with Justin, that means a little bit more to you and it sinks in a little bit more of like when I was thinking these things for you guys as a team. A lot of it came from the past 20 years of experience with this guy that you've had truly the privilege of talking to. So Justin, I'll give it to you. Any last words or comments you may have, and then we're done, brother.
Well, first of all, again, thank you for the time. And again, I apologize. I think at the beginning of the call, I probably rambled more than I normally would have, or certainly like to. But it's a topic that's very challenging to kind of pull together into a very concise kind of talk. But I appreciate your time. And look, I know it's Friday afternoon for you guys. If I was on your end, I'd be like itching for this call to end. That being said, one thing that Josh mentioned, which was around, as your next steps and kind of how you're going forward. Absolutely. I'll give him the right email address for reaching out to me. And you should, whether that's on to over crossing over to the dark side over here. If one of you is interested in going back to college, one of you is interested in going over to the Navy side, one of you is interested in learning about what I do in sales marketing side, what is life like living overseas, et cetera, et cetera. I'm happy to help out with any and all of those that you like. And finally, what I'll say is I'm happy to. I've got my next call isn't until 1 hour from now, so I can hang out for a few minutes if anybody has any specific questions while we're on the phone. And otherwise, yeah, thanks for your time.